how come Dan Snyder, he's just a cockroach, huh? This guy, like, it just seems like, you know, when the Washington Post first couple exposés came out back to back, boom, what was that, last year maybe?
Yeah,
last year.
2 years ago it came out. It was the narrative coming from the Daniel Snyder camp is, oh, this is somebody, like, Bezos wants me out so he can buy the team. Like, that was kind of the narrative I feel that was being pushed. Like, oh, this is a hit. This is an attack on Dan Snyder. They're trying to cancel us. Then now, even as Roger Goodell spoke about how terrible it was and how bad everything, it feels like this has just been one of the worst places to work in the world for, like, underneath Dan Snyder's leadership for so long. What would somebody have to do to get kicked out of the biggest league on earth, the best league on earth, an absolute cash cow forever, the NFL? What would somebody have to do if this wasn't it? And how much of the stories that we have heard have been wrong? I don't think any of them, right? Everything we have heard has basically been accurate on that type of stuff. And how does he stick around so long? He must just have dirt on everybody? Is that what it is?
Well, the memo from the House Oversight Committee backs up a lot of the reporting that has been done and additionally adds about the shadow investigation that the committee says Dan Snyder was running, building dossiers on the reporters from the Washington Post and elsewhere, getting their private phone records and their social media activity and everything else. It's difficult. It is possible. The owners have the right that they can remove an owner. But think about it this way. There's 32 of those franchises that are available, which means you have 32 people ultimately controlling who is going to end up in those seats. And there are checks and balances, even though teams can be sold, they still have to be approved. There's various channels by which they're approved at a league level. Obviously, the membership eventually has to approve as well. But when you have owners who are ensnared in whatever the allegations might be, and certainly there have been a number of them in recent years who have been accused of various things, not identical to what Daniel Snyder has been accused of, at least in terms of the breadth, but certainly other things. The moment that you remove one owner, that opens the door to potentially, well, now what's the standard for removing other owners?
Got it.
And so I think that there's a natural element of protection within the group. But let's make no mistake here, there are plenty of people within the league who are embarrassed by just the non-stop stuff, the reports and the allegations and everything else surrounding the Commanders. I mean, think about it. Just in the past year, okay, you have a number of women, cheerleaders, talking about Daniel Snyder had their pictures given to him. You have other former employees talking about being bullied and harassed on the job, and in multiple cases, sexually harassed directly or sexually assaulted by Daniel Snyder. You have the John Gruden email scandal that involves Bruce Allen and the nexus of that and who leaked it. That's an entire storyline. On the field, you have players punching each other on the sideline. You have
poop pipes bursting.
Jack Del Rio
Jalen
obviously
Hurts
getting fined $100,000 recently for comments that he made that Ron Rivera said were a distraction to the team. It just seems like there's always something going on. And you can certainly say, well, these are all different people. These are all different areas. Daniel Snyder, according to Roger Goodell, to the best of his knowledge, is not involved in the day-to-day right now. But it still all comes under Dan Snyder's leadership. And for 2 decades, there have been sort of one thing after another. It all seems to be coming to a head here in a way that is unusual within NFL ownership, and depending in particular on what comes of the allegations of sexual assault, that certainly will be one of the guiding forces in exactly what direction this goes from here.
I can see how the other business people who are in business together would say, well, if we set a precedent of getting rid of one owner, that could be you or me if something happens. And somebody in the room is probably going to be like, we can put a fucking Dan Snyder clause in. Listen, this guy has done more than he could ever need to do to get run out of doing business with us. How about him saying, like, they're not going to force Snyder out or whatever? It's like, how?
Yeah. How can
they do it for us? We're tired of having to fucking talk about
kidding.
this guy. Like, I like championing the NFL, and it's hard to champion the NFL whenever stuff like that continues to unfold. And information from 13 years ago is coming out that's just even worse than anything else.
And the point that they're not going to get rid of Dan because what the bar that it sets or whatever, don't do what Dan did and you won't lose your ownership.
Yeah, call it the "don't do what Dan did" clause.
Yeah. Just don't steal from the other owners even.
And when you buy a team, this is what they'll say. Hey, listen, we do reserve the right to force you out of this league because it is a privilege, not a right to be in this league. That's what's told to all the players, coaches, everybody that's in there. It's a privilege to be a part of this league, not a right, even if you have a bunch of money. So if you don't want us to force you out, here is 460,000 pages of what Dan Snyder did, and just need you not to do. You can do some of them. Dan did 459,000 pages of this.
Yeah.
Just can't have every single thing this person has done. And then it's hard not to just be like, well, what skeletons are in the other closets, I guess. Then.
Yeah.
If they're scared to do this, and they don't think that they think that this would be a precedent, it's like, get them all out then. Let's get new money in there. Now, we have to remember that if somebody has a lot of money or an entity has a lot of money, there's a good chance they've been involved in something that is not necessarily morally perfect. That is something that potentially happens in the world. It's all getting spotlighted now in the golf world that we're in, but still, like, come on, man. It is a privilege, not a right, to be in the NFL, and it seems like that is a message that is delivered to everybody from the NFL, except for at least one of the owners in the NFL.
Even for him, like, why wouldn't you just, like, think he likes constant, if he sells the team, he's rich as fuck. He's already rich as fuck. And he just, like, no one ever talks about him again. It's not like his name is getting brought up every single week. Like, oh, hey, just here's your weekly reminder. Dan Snyder's a huge piece of shit and a cockroach. Like, if he just sells the team, and obviously, he's a sack of shit, so he wants to hold on to this as long as he can. But, like, if he just sold the team, he'd just float into obscurity.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder if he's like Logan Roy. Vince McMahon came in here. And he said, I like conflict. He said, like, I enjoy conflict and everything like that. He said, I get comfortable in there. I assume a lot of these people that have billions of dollars are big, like, don't tell me what to fucking do.
for sure.
And if you want to go, let's go. But there has to be a human under there somewhere, right?
You'd
Like,
think.
at some
You would
point,
think.
Dan Snyder has to be a human in there. And he just gets sick of hearing about himself and all of his worst things every single day. But people are politicians forever. And that's
Yeah.
a part of the game for all of them. And they make far less money. Well, from their jobs, they make less money.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother thing we
Facet.
can dive into.
But it's
Who's
like,
in the pockets of these
when it's stuff like this, though, like these kinds of allegations, like he has a family, like he has a wife, he has kids, like don't you think at some point it's like, I don't know, maybe not, probably doesn't care. His wife probably knows he's a piece of shit, so it's like,
Maybe
whatever.
40
but
years ago.
They're on a yacht in France.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Town.
He doesn't care. And if Papa John's still doing interviews, he'll still be talked about.